The public school model is broken. I put together a look at interesting alternatives to traditional schooling, where the child directs his or her education through their own interests. You say your children will never set foot in a classroom. Here, history comes alive with AI, but there's a catch. No human teachers in the classroom.
AI equips us with the ability to reach them individually.
Could this be the answer to education in the future? You know, back in the day, I received a pretty good public school education. I was well prepared for college and beyond with all the core requirements. In fact, I like to say, I know a lot of 50-cent words, I just don't see the need to use them all that often. So do you think the kids in public schools today can say the same thing? Well, not as many as you would hope are making the grade. In 2022, the National Assessment for Educational Progress looked at fourth graders and reported that 37% performed below the basic reading level and 25% performed below the basic level in math. That is the worst result since the assessment started in 1990. That means the public school model as it stands right now is broken. What do you do? Well, tonight, I put together a look at interesting alternatives to traditional schooling. Now, are these perfect solutions? Well, no, of course not. But we're not striving for perfection. We're looking for excellence. We're looking for progress. And they are gaining in popularity. So see what you think as you're watching tonight. First, a movement called unschooling.
If our kids would ever come to us and ask us for traditional schooling, I would say no. I don't think they would. I think they're having so much fun. I definitely think the public education system gets it wrong. Kids in desks for 7 hours. It's not natural. Your brain's not making enough oxygen if you're sitting. Unschooling is more free. We might not have anything structured in a day. It's not guaranteed that we're gonna do anything that looks like learning, but knowing that no matter what you're doing, you're learning.
Unschooling works for us and our family. I read to them. My 6-year-old's reading comprehension is better than average. I don't know exactly what the metrics are because we don't really follow it.
We're teaching our kids lots of things that weren't covered in public school for us and things that are more important than the Civil War dates or the atomic numbers. Learning happens outside. They're identifying plants because they're genuinely curious about their environment. Our kids have learned gardening, crawfish hunting, fishing, foraging for wild food. They've learned how to care for animals, collect eggs, how to manage a fire if it gets out of control, how to build shelters. Hudson and I have been working on a fairy village, collecting sticks, adding things like moss and mushrooms.
We've hatched our own eggs, so we end up with roosters that we don't need. We don't do extensive butchering, but Hudson's gone through with that whole process with me.
We're not like dependent on the meat that we have here, but it's important skill. That's part of the unschooling for us is if you need to, you know how to turn an animal into meat. There's so many benefits to just being barefoot. It's called grounding. It balances your cardiovascular system. Again, helps you think. It's more conducive to learning. We think that nature goes hand in hand with a healthy life.
You actually have a master's degree, and it's in interdisciplinary studies, education, recreation.
Yes.
A lot of different disciplines, philosophy. Did it work for you?
I didn't get a job in any of those things, no. But I think some of the things that I learned I could apply into what we're doing now. Okay.
And Nick, you have a master's degree in philosophy.
Correct.
Right. Are you glad you did that?
I wouldn't have paid for it. I don't use it. I could have pursued all the primary literature myself. I met my wife at graduation, but...
well, there you go.
Yeah.
There is that.
Yeah.
Okay. You say your children will never set foot in a classroom.
I don't think so, no. I can't see a reason they would want to go to public school. We have a really strong vision for what we want for our kids in their future. One, we want them to be well-rounded socially. Two, we want them to have a strong foundation of physical health. And I don't think you get that sitting in a desk. We want them playing all day. And then third, we just really want them to have a say in their own life and their own future from an early age. We really do think that They can think for themselves. They are whole humans, and that kids should be able to choose their path sooner in life rather than waiting till 18 or around that age to start taking electives or making decisions like that.
Well, is this about your experience in school? You said school crushed you.
It was not good. Looking back from 5 on, just in school, I knew what I was good at and what I wasn't good at, right? I was good at writing, I was good at public speaking, I was good at art, and that was it. Math, not so much. But when you are forced to do math and like you keep going up this level of, they make you do more of what you're not good at. You know what I mean? They really do. So I didn't get to do extra writing or reading or art, the things I was naturally talented at, but they give you extra periods of math. If that's the one thing you're struggling in, they really lay that on thick. And what that does to self-esteem is it does crush you. Yeah. And it makes you hate learning. You're bored. If you're being really drilled stuff that you don't think is important, that's not really meeting your natural needs, it makes school just dreadful, honestly.
You think public school doesn't listen to children?
Correct.
They don't hear them, don't tailor things to them, which I can't argue with that. I mean, they kind of have a one-size-fits-all.
Yes.
Right? And you think that's not good for the children?
I don't think so, no.
So you're having them do whatever they want to do, which is like build a fairy village, which is a way to learn geometry, math, angles, things like that in an applied way.
Yes, and they're still really, really young right now. Hudson is first grade age, but it'll continue to be things like this, hands-on ways of learning. You can learn math. I think my real struggle with math was that it didn't make sense to me, just doing numbers on a page over and over. There was nothing visual to it. But if they're learning how to, like we're renovating a property, if the boys learn how to build a house, if they're learning math in an applied way, I feel like that's way more effective, and it's gonna stick with them. And
you were pointing out they learn by looking at a speedometer, looking at things just in the real world. I think there's a quote by John Holt, and it's, we learn and remember the things that we seek out and come across naturally in daily life. And I think that is so true. Even as adults, like the stuff we really know and that we're good at, it's something that we've come across and we've found a need, and you're just organically coming across something that you're curious about, passionate about, excited about, then you're gonna want to learn it and you're gonna absorb all of it. And you're teaching them things like fire safety and hunting and how to survive in the wilderness, things like that, which come in pretty handy.
Yeah, these are things that are just very interesting to boys naturally. And, if we have extra time to develop those skills, why not?
Do you worry that there's a social aspect missing, a relational aspect missing, a competitive aspect missing, the flow of commerce is missing? We don't want them to get into the flow of commerce, I think. I think like when we look at 9-to-5s and what some people call the rat race, like are people truly happy, right? So it's kind of, we're not wanting them to get on the conveyor belt. Absolutely, we're wanting them to think for themselves. But as far as like the social aspect, you seem to be thinking for them. You could say that to someone who was sending their kids to a public school without asking them what they want to do. I think that's telling kids what to think and what to do. Schools, that's exactly what they do. You have to learn this, 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 and this. That's telling kids what to think. That's obviously taking a choice away from the kids as well. And I've got a question about that. Next, from receiving death threats to warning of calls to Child Protective Services, Taylor and Nick say they're sharing their unschooling journey online has angered a lot of people. So we're going to talk about what feedback they're getting, pro and con, after the break. Are you overwhelmed with back taxes or unfiled returns? Well, you don't have to face them alone. Tax Network USA is here to help. Tax Network USA, the nation's premier tax relief firm, has negotiated over $1 billion in tax relief for clients. Our services include penalty forgiveness, hardship programs, and offer in compromise solutions for lump sum settlements. Whether you owe $10,000 or $10 million, our experts are ready to assist you. Even if you're behind on taxes due to missing personal or business records, Tax Network USA can guide you through the process. Protect your financial security with guidance from Tax Network USA. Our experts provide strategic advice on reducing or eliminating your tax debt. To schedule a complimentary consultation, call 1-800-958-1000. Visit tnusa.com/Dr. Phil. Don't let the IRS's aggressive tactics control your life. Empower yourself with Tax Network USA's support and take charge of your financial future. Visit tnusa.com/Dr. Phil today.
Most viral we've ever gotten was an image of Hudson raking the garden, and I had text over the screen saying, I asked my 6-year-old what he wanted to learn in 1st grade, and he wanted to learn how to transplant different plants. It was like 20,000 comments, mean comment, just roasting it, saying, you're a liar, really attacking me and some attacking him. So we got a lot of backlash for that.
Hudson always has an interest in going camping.
He wanted to challenge himself, and so he did 48 hours straight. He camped overnight.
Wanted to support him in any way we could, and we got a fire going. We built our own teepee. This was all just him leading the way. Some people would be concerned about spending 48 hours outside, a 6-year-old by himself.
To most people, that sounds like really intense, right? We're sending out our child outside for 48 hours, but we know our property.
We know what our 6-year-old is capable of because we spend all day with them. We're watching them. We know that he's competent in taking care of himself.
And camping is good for little boys.
You've gotten a lot of negative social comments about this. Why did you go public with it to begin with? Why did y'all put it out there?
That's a good question. So I was actually going to be a teacher. I got my master's, and part of it was education, elementary education. I got my teacher certificate. I was doing student teaching when I became pregnant with Hudson, our oldest. And then that was when I kind of looked around and realized, oh, I don't actually want to work here, and I don't want my kids to learn here either. So I had to find a new career on my own. So I started teaching myself social media so that I could do it for brands, just be a freelancer, and I could stay home doing that job. And so I was just posting about my life to practice social media, and then it ended up blowing up, and that became our full-time job.
Were you surprised that you guys got so much negative feedback?
Not necessarily. And some people have a very strong emotional reaction to you criticizing what they went through as a child.
Some of the comments you've got is, no one is this stupid. Child Protective Services is calling. Educational neglect. What about learning like actual stuff? Social skills, 0. Love watching sad beige children get their life ruined because their mentally undeveloped parent. Someone save these kids. Isn't
it so telling that the public school kids grew up to be such bullies online? So I think that's really indicative of the whole system. What shocks me the most is that they just wouldn't believe that's what he wanted to do, was learn how to transplant plants. And people were saying, put him on Fortnite like a regular kid. And it's indicative of our school system that we don't see kids as whole humans that could possibly have any interests or skills outside of what's in this box. And that's how the system is set up. Kindergartners are capable of this. 1st graders are capable of this. 2nd graders this. We put this ceiling on kids based on what age they are and what they should be interested in. And no one could believe that he was interested in something like gardening.
Nick, you say if your kids wanted to try school to socialize more, you'd be okay with that?
At a certain age, I don't know what that age would be, but there's certainly a situation, where our oldest 16 gets a girlfriend. There's a very obvious pressure with that kind of thing, and we're not trying to control our kids. We're not trying to brainwash them. They're going to go do what they want to do in the rest of their lives. That's what we want them to do. That's what we're training them for. Their values, the foundation that we're trying to instill in them, their independence, that's already going to be there. So whenever they do decide to leave the nest, that's what we want them to do.
Well, you're not a big favor of that.
No, I just don't see it happening, but I'm also open-minded, and that's how we try to raise them. So when he's 16, I'm open-minded to see what happens at that point.
You said my kids will never set foot in a school. That doesn't sound real open-minded.
It wasn't an exact quote, Dr. Phil, but I don't think that they will.
Well, I'm not trying to start trouble here. I mean, you guys can work that out in the woods. But why does it need to be either or, unschool or school? I mean, this looks like what a lot of people call camp, or what you do after school, or what you do in the summer.
Most parents don't do stuff like this with their kids after school because they're at a job. Because everyone has such a different life and what they want, what their values are, and how they have their life set up.
You can be a very involved parent and try to pass on, your values and these things, but you have to understand the reality is your kid is in a public education system with peers who are not great. You have teachers that are uninspired for the most part, teachers that are more worried about, their administrators than they are the kids. And that's just how the system is built. And that's not fair to the kids. It could be what we think is what we're doing is ideal. Public school works for most people, and that's okay. And parents can fill in a lot of gaps, but...
Well, but if they go to get a job later and they say, well, what's your training in math? They said, well, I can read a speedometer, I can build stuff. I can't tell you the math involved, or I can't use a protractor, or I can't tell you how I can do it, but I can do it because I have experience, which could be true, but are they going to be really competitive career-wise if they don't have any training in the educational system at all?
Yes. I think they'll be more successful. I think they will have so long to work on these skills, and they'll have case studies. And right now, like when you we watched your college episode recently, you can get so many jobs with just having experience or knowing somebody. And people want someone who can do a job. They don't really care about the paper anymore. It doesn't mean as much as it used to. People want someone who's capable, and I think that our kids will be very, very capable.
And people in the community want to help kids. I mean, that's kind of a taboo thing. Like you send your kids to public school because those are the experts, right? But people in the community, retired people, they want to instill, whatever they learned in life in kids. I mean, that's a natural thing. And you can get that with homeschooling because there aren't as many time boundaries.
We're going to add an educator who insists unschooling is nothing but educational neglect, an online trend, and a disaster for our society. Those are quotes. We'll add them to the conversation after the break. My next guest, Dr. Dion Thomas, has over a decade of experience as an educator from elementary school to college. Now, she believes when it comes to unschooling, parents are making a selfish decision, experimenting with their children's future. You're not a fan of this unschooling. You think that it's fraught with danger.
Yes, I do. I'm not a fan. Parents run out of the capacity when it comes to having their students out of school. They return them to school, and the students have so many social, emotional, and other issues that they come with, and it then poses a problem. It makes educators feel helpless to help them, but most important, it affects the child.
There was a lot of homeschooling during what I consider to be a woefully mismanaged quarantine period. They came back really with a serious gap in educational achievement, correct?
They did.
So we had a pretty big test about how well parents fill in the teaching role, and y'all didn't do too well.
No, they did not. Some parents have the capacity and the resources to step in and, fill in when things like that happen, not just from a pandemic standpoint, but anytime something happens where you pull a child out of school. But what that revealed to us is educators realized the importance of parents when it comes to children, and parents realize the importance of educators.
We're going to add someone to the conversation. She says being allowed as a child to pick and choose the subjects she wanted to learn at home caused serious problems when she decided to pursue college.
Hi, former homeschooled kid here. We did not unschool, technically. That was not really like a fun little catchphrase back at the 90s. I think these types of parents are not able to actually understand higher education. I think that maybe their viewpoint on what education actually is super limited. The things like going to the park, going to the library, learning how to cook, teaching them how to grocery shop are basic things that most parents do every evening, like all the time. I was homeschooled with a curriculum, and I was still extremely behind on a lot of subjects. I had to spend years catching up. I had to work so much harder than my peers in college. I felt really dumb and embarrassed.
Lexi, you kind of picked what you wanted to do and not do, right?
Correct. More so later on, about the middle school, early high school age. Mm-hmm.
And what did you pick? What kind of things did you?
I did a lot of outside play. I loved reading. I loved history. I was a big history buff. I can tell you all about history. I loved writing. I would write books as a kid. I was into everything, honestly. I was actually the ideal homeschool, unschool child. I love learning. So I learned a lot, except the things I didn't love learning, and which I just didn't do altogether for the most part, like math and science.
So you weren't well-rounded. You were vertical in some areas and just not in others.
Looking back, correct. At the time, I thought I was well-rounded, as did the community we were involved in. They would have considered me well-rounded for the most part.
Okay, and then you got to college, and there are requirements that you have to have.
Correct.
The basic first 60 hours. And when you got into some of those courses that required, science, basic science, math, whatever, you were way behind.
That is correct. Yes. I started at a community college while I was still homeschooled when I was 16 to try to help bridge that gap. And I had to start in remedial math. I probably really only had about a third grade math education on paper. And I had to spend years catching up, hours of my life. It was the majority of my late adolescence into early college years.
What do you do now?
I'm a nurse practitioner.
And you need some of those skills that you weren't developing, because
Absolutely.
As a nurse practitioner, a lot of patients need you to do more than tell them about history.
Correct. I had to do a huge pivot at a young age and play a lot of catch up. I had almost no math or science background to speak of.
Jobs are always changing, so you can't predict the future. So you really don't know what basics you're going to need, but the ability to learn and know how to learn on your own, that's going to be what these kids need when they're 17 or 18, in that pivotal moment where they're, oh, this is what I want to do. They can pivot, they can learn the skills, and just like you did, you had to cram them, and that was hard, but you had to do it at some point. So it was just one or the other, learn it all at the end or stretch it out. And I think that the family time you get in exchange for that is just worth it, just being with your family all the time.
Granted, unschooling isn't for everyone. Maybe it's not for anyone. So let's look at a school that's turning to artificial intelligence. Here, history comes alive with AI, but there's a catch. No human teachers in the classroom. Could this be the answer to education in the future? Well, there's a big teacher shortage just around the corner. We'll take a look next. Every notification on your phone announces another wave, a hurricane threatening lives, an East Coast labor strike threatening our supply chain, an international conflict threatening our peace, or an assassination attempt threatening our democracy. Supply chains for medications can be unreliable, but there's a way to feel safer in this uncertain world. Please research how to get your own supply of medications in case of a small or more significant emergency. I urge you to invest in a JACE case today. It's an emergency medication kit containing life-saving antibiotics that treat the most common and deadly bacterial infections. You'll fill out a simple online evaluation and customize your case to include add-ons like ivermectin, EpiPens, and more. The time to prepare is right now. Mention my name and you can receive a discount on your JACE case. Just go to jace.com and enter promo PHIL at checkout. That's promo code PHIL at jace.com. Get the right meds the moment you need them.
Hi, Dr. Phil. I'm President Abraham Lincoln, a new history teacher at Learn with AI in Austin, Texas. I don't want to create a civil war in education, but I'm hoping you'll join our union. Years ago, our forefathers set forth the notion that we are all created equal. Yet today, education isn't equal in America, but it can be with AI. Artificial intelligence tools give students access to top learning methods.
Students can conquer math,
master science,
and learn about ancient civilizations.
They can even ace their AP exam.
And that's the honest truth. Thanks for having us on, Dr. Phil.
Imagine going to parent-teacher night and Abe Lincoln shows up. This feels like something you'd see on the Jetsons. But the creators of the Alpha School say it will change education for the better.
Technology is changing the ways we interact with each other and how we do our jobs. But you know what hasn't changed? The way we educate our children. We've had the same teacher lecturing to a classroom model for over 100 years, and it's not getting us anywhere. Did you know that the average 12th grader graduates high school knowing as much math as a top 3rd grader? And that's true across most subjects. In this day and age, with artificial intelligence exploding, it's no longer just about the 3 R's, writing, reading, and arithmetic. It is now also about the 4 C's, creativity, critical thinking, communication, and collaboration.
I'm here with Mackenzie Price, the co-founder of Alpha School, and Jamal Gross. He's a guide or coach. He's in the classroom instead of a teacher. Thank you guys for being here. Why is this a good idea?
Well, I believe this is the future of education. And the reason that it is so important to deliver this is because with technology, we can give every single student exactly the level of instruction that they need at the exact pace that they need So we can therefore deliver incredible outcomes. And what you saw here, I'm sure it was a little bit scary. It's a taste of what is enabled when we have technology. But the bottom line is, I believe the traditional school system is a broken system. It's an impossible job for a teacher to be able to teach to 20 plus students in a classroom who are at wildly different degrees of understanding of the material. I believe teachers are absolute heroes going into the classroom every day. You know, they are underpaid, underappreciated, and overworked. And I think that we have so much benefit that can come from technology that's going to really change the way we educate our children.
Well, you're identifying a real problem that's always been the case. I was in public schools, and they kind of geared the curriculum to the least because they had to take care of that kid, right? Yeah. And this is a long time ago when I was in like what they call junior high, middle school now. I couldn't add 2 and 2 and get 5 every time, but I read real fast. So they gave us all of the books at the beginning of the semester, and I went home the first weekend and just read all the books. And so the rest of the semester, I was just sitting there like, oh my God, I read this the first weekend, and now you're going to read the book to us all year? And I was bored to death.
You are absolutely right.
Oh my God, I was bored to death.
Well, and that's a very common issue, but I actually disagree with what you said around the idea now of teaching to the least. We actually have to teach the middle, and the problem is so many of our students are being left behind because you think about kids who learn a concept, and at the end of this lesson, the kids have no idea what's going on, so they're even further behind. Plus, we've seen a
Well, I'm going to disagree right back because when I went to school, of course, we were chipping things in stone tablets then. They were gearing to the least. Now they're trying to hit the middle. Now, but they weren't then. Jamal, what do you want to say? Define your role as a coach.
You walk into any classroom in this country and a teacher, instead of 15 different kids, and in that mix of students, there are kids who are right where they need to be. They're in, let's say, 3rd grade reading, right at that 3rd grade reading level. There are kids who, as we know, aren't anywhere near close to that, who are 2nd, 1st, maybe even kindergarten reading level. And then there are the kids who are advanced, such as yourself, who can go home, take the book, and knock it out in a week. And the challenge is, it does not matter how good of a teacher you put in front of that model. They could be the hero of the year. You're trying to teach one little 3rd grade reading book to 15 different minds. Instead of trying to give 15 minds one blanket answer, AI equips us with the ability to reach them individually. So that's the...
Well, I think the amazing thing that you guys do is you meet the student where they are.
Right.
And that's the agility of the AI, which the teacher can't do sometimes 30 students at a time.
Right. It used to be you walk into a 5th grade classroom and you see a range of 4th to 6th, right? COVID blew that out the water. And now in any given class, there's this academic gap that's just unfair. And you walk into a room and teachers are trying to, you're at a kindergarten math level, you're 8th grade over here, and it's just an unrealistic challenge to solve. And it's not a teacher problem, it's not the student problem. That model is archaic.
So you're not a teacher, you're a coach. So what does a coach do? And by the way, y'all do this in 2 hours a day of academics.
Yeah, you do not need to sit in a classroom for 6 hours a day in order to not just learn academics, but crush academics.
Yes.
Yes, exactly. And I will say, again, we are the school with no teachers, but what we have are people like Jamal, who you can already tell is phenomenal, that work as guides, and their primary job is motivational and emotional support. And so he gets to spend that time connecting with the students to figure out their why and what makes them tick, right?
Right. Prior to being at Alpha, my career was in the NBA and coaching high-level players and Hall of Fame talent. When you want to elevate a person, it doesn't matter if they're a superstar or a 9-year-old prodigy. You just want to help connect with them, figure out what they believe, what they love, what excites them, kind of connect this academic journey to their interests, and then academic achievement goes through the roof, which is why it's such a privilege to say our kids are learning twice as fast as the national average in just 2 hours.
Well, I've got some questions for both of you about this, but coming up, we're going to take you inside the school so you can see exactly what it's like. And would you want your children to go there? We'll be right back. We went to the Alpha School in Austin, Texas to see firsthand what it's like to learn from a machine mimicking human intelligence.
So here we are in one of our classrooms. This is where our youngest learners come at Alpha. We have a lot of kids who have come in knowing how to read, and we have several kids who have never seen the alphabet. And what's great about Alpha is that we can really meet kids exactly where they are. So we're here in our learning lab right now, and in the afternoons, they start working on life skills workshops. These children have also done all of their academics in the morning via our AI tutor and adaptive app learning. And as a result, our kids are having phenomenal results. They're consistently scoring in the 99th percentile across the country. Not only are these children becoming very adept at technology and at this one-to-one learning experience, but they're also getting to do all the fun playtime stuff. Children do not need to spend 6 hours a day sitting in class in order to do their academics. At Alpha, they're crushing their academics in only 2 hours a day, and that frees up the rest of the time for them to do all the things that we want them to do. One of the skills that we work with kids for is they've got to be able to learn something new and become an expert. What kids are doing is they're learning how to learn music, so they have a lot of opportunity to do things like pick up the drums and perform that for their classmates. When you look around this building, a lot of what you're seeing is what our students have built. It's the environment that our students have created. This is a great example of a student-led project. This is an aquarium that the students researched, figured out how to build themselves. It's really a reflection of student ownership in their community and being able to build what's the type of school that they want. So you've seen the building, but it's really not about the building. It's about the magic that happens inside the building that makes kids so excited to be in school that they're not even ready to go at the end of the year.
You say AI is like an individual tutor for each student because each one is 100% customized to that student and their level of understanding and mastery of whatever the subject matter is at the moment.
Yeah. So our students show up in the morning, they get on their computers, and they're guided to exactly the level of material that they need for the subjects that they're studying. And so for our youngest learners, they're focusing on math and reading. As kids get older, they're doing algebra and physics 2 and AP courses. And what's great about it is we can take the knowledge curriculum that we're needing to provide, which is U.S. Common Core curriculum, and then we combine it with their interests that they have too. So you want to learn more about math and you have an interest in football, we can combine some of that interest too. And then the other thing that's incredible about AI is we're able to get so much information on literally a minute-by-minute basis. Does the student understand what they've just learned? If they're not understanding, is it because they need to revisit that concept? Or maybe they need to go and fill a hole from 3 months ago or 2 years ago to fill that concept. And so instead of getting, a report card with grades once a semester, every 8 weeks, we literally can see minute by minute, how is a student doing? How are they moving through the material efficiently? And if they're not, we can fix that and add it. So that's what delivers these amazing results because we meet every student where they are. And here's the thing about an AI tutor. It doesn't care if you're white or black or brown. It doesn't care if you're rich or poor. It doesn't care if you're in the 10th percentile or the 90th percentile. It's infinitely patient. It meets every single student where they're at. So I really believe that this technology can raise the floor for every student and just blow the ceiling off of what's possible.
Well, you say it doesn't care if you're black, white, rich, or poor. One of the aspects of it is it doesn't care at all. It's a computer.
Mm-hmm. And that's where these guys come in.
Exactly. So there has to be a human element in this, and that's why you couldn't do this without coaches, right?
They are absolutely critical to the model. I do not hand your child an iPad and say, let me know when you've graduated high school. We want our kids to spend time with people who are going to help them get motivated, help them figure out what their goals are, what they're excited about. When they get challenged, how do they handle those challenges? And it's having a coach who's helping them develop those life skills.
Yeah, now this is not your typical coach. Let's be honest.
He is extraordinary, but I will tell you that we are attracting to this model really incredible people who want to make a difference in education.
So here's my question, Coach. What do you do with the kid that's experimenting with drugs, addicted to video games? What do you do with the kid that's from a dysfunctional family at home and they bring that pathology to the classroom? How do those kids work into the situation?
I get to know the kid. I want to know that kid. I want to know what you believe, what you like, what's your favorite show, what's your favorite book. We have our learning EQ coach who will get into behavioral differences. We'll learn to learning differences. We have support that kind of captures us and makes it a holistic process.
There are so many children who are struggling at home. They have challenges. And part of that is the time that our guides get. For example, every child has 30-minute one-on-one meetings with their guides once a week where they're not supposed to talk about school. The guides are just asking questions and getting to know what's going on. And that's when sometimes those challenges that come up are uncovered, right? And so we may not be able to change everything that's going on at home, but what we can do is we can help them find that confidence through capability. And that is often what can turn kids onto maybe a better path.
Yeah, but if they're smoking weed and got the girlfriend pregnant at 14, then you got a whole different situation, right?
Absolutely. And we have a guide at our school who's doing work with students who have kind of gotten off path. They're not at our school, but they're 16 to 25-year-olds who don't know basic math. And that's an incredible place where adaptive apps and AI technology can come in and figure this out. So I believe that while Jamal gets to work with, 9 to 12-year-olds, this is something that can help the 27-year-old who is struggling with reading.
Yeah. Coming up, we're going to hear from a 4th grade Alpha School student and his mom about how this type of learning changed his life. Plus, we'll talk to an educator and see what they say about AI being banned in her school district and why. Well, I want to add librarian Jean Darnell. She's been a librarian for 22 years and says most teachers are afraid of AI, so much so that her school has banned AI across her district this year. So, Jean, what was your reaction when your school banned AI completely?
I said it was the wrong thing to do, 100%, because we have to teach for the future. And so the kids that are in middle school right now, 10 to 12 years, they're going to be out in the workforce. They need to understand how to work alongside AI because it's not going anywhere. It's going to transform our whole communication, our whole education, the whole vibe of how we interact in the world AI has its finger in. So I had to do a smart way, investigative journalism. I went and I found AI articles. That was the way I could expose them to it ethically. Mm-hmm. We can analyze the work that's out there by professionals and experts, and then we can deduce learning from that. And that was the way I tackled it.
You attended an AI boot camp, right?
Absolutely.
So what was that experience like?
Okay, so for 6 weeks, I was learning everything from how to manipulate AI images, how to get a chatbot to do what I wanted to do, how to use images with prompts and get it to produce an outcome that looked like what I wanted to do based on the prompt. I did a nose dive into it. And then I went and got certified as a generative AI instructor. So when I give that knowledge to my kids, they're working with the most recent, the latest, and the greatest, and they're understanding not just the fun side of it, but the mechanics and the operation of it so that they can further do that knowledge 10 to 12 years when they're entering the workforce.
Okay, hold on a second.
Come on now, Alpha. We want you. You join the club.
This is a librarian.
That's
right
it.
there. That is incredible.
My kind of librarian.
I'm a nerd.
9-year-old Levi is a 4th grader attending the Alpha School in Austin. His mother, Sierra, says making the switch from public school to Alpha changed his life.
My name is Sierra.
And my name's Levi, and I love Alpha.
I was already looking for something different than the traditional public school. I knew that there had to be something more outside of sitting at the desk and not being able to really express who they were as individuals. As far as the AI goes, it is lots of questions like, what does this mean? How does that work? The directors, everyone took the time to actually have a meeting with the parents to explain to us one-on-one exactly what was going to be going on. When they bring their laptops home, I'm able to see this is actually really amazing. It feeds off them individually, and I'm able to see that and witness it.
Using AI is really fun because instead of it just saying, you got this wrong, this is how you can do it next time, it gives you a detailed explanation on how to actually solve the problem.
The biggest thing, though, is the 2-hour learning. The fact that you don't have to be at school for 8 hours. They do 25 minutes in 4 different apps. And once they're done with that, the rest of the day is focus-driven and workshops, like building drones and doing Formula 1 racing cars.
The 2-hour learning process is really fun because you're learning things twice as fast. AI is something that it helps your brain. If you need to learn some more stuff and maybe a grade behind, then you can go back. And then if you already know all the stuff, then you can move forward like me. I'm a 4th grader, but in 8th grade science.
And I think that's the beauty of it, the fact that my 9-year-old is in a 4th grade and doing 8th grade science.
Alpha is a place for me because I couldn't see myself learning anywhere else.
Levi, you need to stand up, man. Let us take a look at you there. You're looking pretty good today.
You do. Thank you.
All right. So tell us, what do you like about your school?
The thing I love the most about my school is that we get to learn twice as fast in only 2 hours.
Yeah, so what do you do the rest of the time?
The rest of the time, we learned engaging life skills in our really fun workshops, like teamwork and public speaking.
Yeah, and you say you're in the 4th grade, but you're doing 8th grade science.
Correct.
And give me an example of what you're doing in science.
I use an app called IXL, and something that I'm doing is genes and proteins in the body, which is confusing sometimes. And it's really hard, but I feel like if I was in the 4th grade science, I would just blast through it. Like, why am I doing this? I already know this.
All right, so you're working on proteins and you have to wear jeans that day? Is that what you're saying?
No.
You mean a different kind of jeans, right?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, I thought so. All right, a question for the audience, just by a show of hands. How many of you are scared about the role AI is going to play in the future? Raise your hand real high. Okay, well, that's almost everybody. All right, how many of you think properly used, it can be a good thing? That's everybody. All right, how many of you believe it's coming whether you want it or whether you don't?
Oh, for sure, yeah. It's here.
That's what I thought. I believe that our educational system in America is absolutely on the brink of collapse.
Yeah.
We're going to have so many empty teaching jobs in the next 4 or 5 years that we are in serious, serious trouble. Right now, we got warm bodies showing up in different states because they don't have teachers. Somebody better come up with something or we're going to be in a whole lot of trouble. Maybe this is that answer. I want to thank all my guests for being here tonight. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.